Yesterday was a day to forget if you're a Detroit Lions fan. It was day 10,000 since the franchise's last postseason victory. That came January 5, 1992 against the Dallas Cowboys. The following week, the Lions would lose to Washington in the NFC Championship game and not win a playoff game since then. Marathon of Misery 10K, and there's that sign. 0-16, we did it first. Take that, Cleveland Browns. So that inspires today's draft. And I say this all the time. There are fan bases out there that desperately deserve to have winning teams, relevant teams, teams that make it to the playoffs once in a while beyond just accidentally, and also winning in the postseason. Not many teams, even though it's an age of parity, Chris, get to enjoy being victorious in the postseason. So we're going to draft the fan bases that we think are most deserving of a playoff victory. Go ahead. I'm deserving of a coin toss victory. Maybe I'll get one today.
No, really, I'm on fire with the coin toss. I'm like the New England Patriots of coin tossers, okay? I'm going to go with tails here. I think she thinks I'm going to go with heads, thinking you want to win, and she's going to go with tails. Yes! I am on fire. Like, I seriously would like to know my statistics with heads and tails over the last, 60 days. I think I'm, 55-5.
I think she's cheating. I think she waits until you make the call and then she hits heads or tails.
No, she doesn't.
I don't think there's anything random.
She doesn't like me that much. She doesn't like me that much to do that.
No, she does, but she dislikes me enough to do it. Go ahead.
Very valid point. Maybe that could be true. All right, this is fairly obvious. Okay, now this is not a team that's had necessarily the longest playoff drought. But damn, I'm going with the team that's had the longest playoff win drought, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm so sick of hearing about the Cincinnati Bengals and haven't won a playoff game and whatever. And, oh, my gosh, Marvin Lewis, that's all we talked about every year. So, I look at that, and the Bengals fan base still been very loyal over the years, gets crapped on a lot of different ways. But I feel sorry for them. I know they got to the playoffs, but there hasn't been a lot to jump on there with the Cincinnati Bengals, and they have not won a playoff game since the 1990 wild card round. So, yeah, I went with the team with the longest drought because I do feel bad for them, and I feel like that's always the narrative around the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, but again, it's not what organization, it's what fan base. And I'm sorry, but they don't fill the stadium consistently enough for me in Cincinnati. And anybody who pays to go see a bad team play and shows up and sits in the upper rows of the upper deck, out in the elements, out in the cold, and is there no matter what, those are the fan bases that deserve it. And I got to stay in Ohio, Chris. The Cleveland Browns, this edition of the Browns has never won a playoff game. And I don't know how much solace you take. If you're a Browns fan, how do you compartmentalize this idea that, well, the Browns left and became the Ravens, and they've won 2 Super Bowls. And the new Browns are the old Browns, so we still get to enjoy whatever success the old Browns had, but we know it's still a different franchise altogether. I mean, this franchise has been around for 20 years now and has not won a playoff game. They've been to 1 playoff game, and those fans show up all the time. There's never talk about games not being sold out in Cleveland. They are there all the time, and they are behind that team unconditionally, unequivocally. So I think right state, wrong city, Cleveland Browns, I think the obvious winner.
Yeah, well, I guess the reason I guess my biggest reason for that, first of all, there's been plenty of games where I've looked at Cleveland Browns Stadium and gone, there's not a great fan showing there. And it wasn't last year, but the 2 years before that, and I get that. So I'm just pushing back here for the sake of the draft, okay?
It's every week in Cincinnati. Every week in Cincinnati.
I just feel like the Bengals fans get crapped on more. That's where I look at it, too, to where I just kind of get sick of that. That's why I went with number 1. But
I don't think they do. I just think that the Bengals are just kind of there. The fan base is just kind of there. That's my vibe on and prove us wrong, Bengals. Win some games, win a division, fill up your stadium every week. But I just feel like they're just kind of there.
Okay, all right. I got you. All right, my next one here. I'm going to go with the team we just broke down as far as offseason edition. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. You talk about
he's pandering. Oh, they gave him access Wednesday, so he's going with the Bills. What a shock.
That's right. I got to stay friends with my friends there. Make sure they still love me, okay? But in all seriousness, I mean, come on. That's an unbelievable fan base up there in Orchard, New York. They deal with the elements, the wind, the cold, the tailgating experience. They're out there. They're as loyal as hell up there in Buffalo. An unbelievable fan base. The Buffalo Bills are part of the DNA of the city. It truly is special. They haven't won a playoff game since 1995, but they continue to show show up no matter what it is. They know that the Patriots are going to win the AFC East. They're still there in support. So I look at them as a fan base towards the top of the list. And maybe this should have been my first pick for some of the things they've had to endure to say that they deserve better. And I think the better is coming very soon.
Yeah, I think the Bills fans do deserve it. I think Browns should have been first. Bills should have been my first pick, but the Bills definitely deserve it. They've been through so much, and they stuck with that team. It's just how excruciating every year to go back to the Super Bowl and not win it and still be with that team. It would have been very easy to say after that fourth Super Bowl, all right, we had our chance. The fun's over. Let's just go pay attention to hockey now instead. So they're still behind that team, zealously behind that team. And they got to worry a little bit about what the Pagulas are going to do with that team long term. Hopefully they can find a way to keep that team in Western New York, because that team should stay there indefinitely. All right, this next one is going to surprise you because I think fan bases sometimes get confused. If I'm critical of a team, I'm not being critical of the fan base. If I'm critical of a quarterback, I'm not being critical of the fan base. Sometimes we call teams out in the hopes that they get better so they can give the fan base what they deserve. And frankly, Chris, the Oakland Raiders fan base deserves a playoff win in this year, the year that the Raiders are leaving Oakland for the second time, and I don't think they're coming back at some point down the road this time around. They haven't won a postseason game since the Super Bowl run in 2002, and what an ugly taste in the mouth still lingering now after what happened when John Gruden went to Tampa and the Buccaneers and the Raiders got together, and the Buccaneers just flattened the Raiders. They've been to the playoffs one time since then. They've been horrible more often than they've been relevant. They were blown off the field in their one playoff game a couple of years ago because Derek Carr had a broken leg. But the Raiders fans, what they've gone through, how their heartstrings have been pulled over the years and how they've been jerked around, they deserve to see that team leave Oakland with a playoff win. And here's hoping that they play well enough that they actually have a home game. It's going to be hard to do with the Chiefs and the Chargers in the division. But, you know, Raiders fans are mad at me because Derek Carr is not the answer long term. Look, they know deep down he's not the answer long term. There's just nothing else they can do about it. But the Raiders fans deserve that postseason win, and hopefully they get it this year before they leave Oakland.
Yeah, one of the most awesome fan bases in all of football. I mean, come on, all the characters in the black hole and doctors dressed up as, you know, in all different costumes, and it's just a one-of-a-kind place to attend a football game at. It really is. Whether it's driving up in the bus through the tailgating area or being out there on the football field, it's got a unique energy. They love the Raiders, and I'm with you. It's sad to see that the Raiders are not going to be a part of that Oakland City anymore, and that is a fan base that's extremely loyal. All right. My third pick here, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm conflicted a little bit. I really am here because, you know, there's one team on here that's very close to my heart, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know that fan base. I love that fan base. But I think just for the sake of the draft here, I'm going to pick the Detroit Lions fans. Okay, I got to go up to Detroit. I mean, they haven't won a damn playoff game since 1991. They still show up for Thanksgiving games. You know, NFC North football is still fun to watch on a weekly basis, no matter who comes into town in Detroit, whether it's the Packers, the Vikings, the Bears, whoever. There always seems to be, you know, good electricity in that stadium. The fans seem to be there in support. Yeah, maybe have complained about, you know, the fact that Matthew Stafford at times. I get sick of defending that, but there's passion there in Detroit. They want a winner. It's a great sports city. I love Detroit people in general. They're blue collar. They love football. We know the state of Michigan loves football. I look at them and go, they deserve it. I really look at Matt Stafford. He deserves it, but damn, the fans deserve it more than anything up there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the current management of the team has patience with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia and lets them implement the culture change. They are pushing back against 60 years of organizational dysfunction that does manifest itself in the chronic struggles. 10,001 day now since, not that they could have done anything about it in the last 24 hours, but the streak is now 10,001 days without a playoff win. And the Lions, you know, last week, Big Cat and I had this conversation, and the clip went a little viral. Had about 500,000 views of the camera focusing on Big Cat while he's kind of making a face as I say the Lions are a team that people are sleeping on. I still believe it. And I feel like when it finally happens for Detroit, it's going to happen quickly. It's going to happen suddenly, and people are going to be stunned.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Detroit's one of those teams where, yeah, I'm not picking them to win in the NFC North, but they would classify as one of those teams where I would go, okay, I wouldn't be shocked if they were in the playoff conversation in December, but sitting here in May, I'm not going to pick them to win the NFC North or really be in second or third place. Really, look at a lot like the Titans we talked about. I'm picking them to be last in the NFC North, but it's a good football team that I'm picking to be last.
Now, you were conflicted between the Lions and the Buccaneers. Yeah. And look, the Buccaneers are the obvious team left on the board. I only hesitate because I remember watching a game last year in the NBC viewing room, and they had a wide shot of the stadium, and there's just nobody there. Now, I don't know how much I fault the fan base for that, because how much of that can you take before you just say, right, I'm out, right? Because this is a very passionate fan base. We get the updates all the time from Tony Dungy. He goes to Foster's Barbershop, and they get electrified when the Buccaneers are good. The problem is they aren't good often enough. So you're in Florida, right? You got plenty of other things you can do than worry about the football team if they are just going to stink. And the fact that there's a Super Bowl trophy lingering, I think it makes it easier to check out. You have to give that fan base a reason to check in. They're trying to do it this year. And, yeah, I mean, none of these other teams, well, the Raiders have their Super Bowl trophies, but, you know, these other teams, the Bills, the Lions, the Bengals, the Browns, they don't even have one. The Buccaneers at least have one, but I just feel like they deserve something better than what they've gotten. It's been too much impatience from ownership when it comes to firing coaches. There hasn't been that year-to-year consistency. They need to develop something, and they really are making an all-in move. I don't know that it's going to work, but that fan base deserves better than what it's got.
Yeah, you know it. I mean, I love that fan base. It's a way more loyal, you know, crazy fan base than I think, you know, the national media maybe gives it credit for. And I think a little bit is because of what you say. You know, yeah, it's Florida. When the team is 2-7, yeah, people aren't you know, coming out in droves to go to Tampa Bay Buccaneers football games too. The other thing I think you got to take into, you know, I think a little consideration about the economics of the city with some of these things too. You know, yeah, you know, the Giants can sell out a stadium here in New York when they're 2-8 because they got season ticket holders that can not show up and just throw money at the door for, oh, I got 4 season tickets, I don't need to show up, I'm making good money. You know, sometimes in Tampa there's just not enough rich people to go around in some of those cities like that too, to where I want to go, people can't, you know, just be attached to season tickets year after year after year, especially when the team hasn't been good. So I do think that affects the way it looks on TV, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Right.
Well, then you should have picked them. You're trying to have it both ways. You should have picked them.
I should have.
You felt
I was more passionate
about
them. Yeah, I did. I felt bad.
But you wanted to have it both ways.
Yes.
But it doesn't work that way. You've lost this one because you lost at the moment you picked the Bengals.
You're
you got
right.
the Bengals,
I did.
Bills, Lions.
I did.
I got the Browns, Raiders, and Bucks.
At least I can admit when I lose.
Yippee. Well, no, you can't because you lose far more often than today. We're going to take a break. When we return, Chris has a homework assignment for next week. So much for your 3-day weekend, buddy. You're going to be working because you got a lot of work to do.
I already got it ready. I'm a teacher's pet. I got it done before. The homework's ready. Don't you worry.
Never mind. We'll tell you what it is when PFT Live continues.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.